what I also want to do now is I'm going to recheck. Let's just look for all of them. We'll do a more command. You can see that we also have we're now listening on port 587, right? And 993 and 995. It looks like the secure IMAP 4 and the secure POP 3 we're now listening on those. The fact that we're listening on port 587, what I can do is I can do a quick Google search to search for what service that is. So I did a search under Google for port 587, and that's SMTP over 587, right? So we're good here with the ports that we're now listening on. So all I had to do was actually just turn on the POP3 and the IMAP 4 service, and we're good to go now. It's time to work with DNS. So I've gone to my server manager and I've opened up the DNS server, and the server manager is down here at the bottom right here. So I clicked here, opened up the DNS server area under server manager, and I went into my dansgames.com area, which is in the forward lookup zone, and I highlighted dansgames.com. And what we need to do is we need to set some records here to make this thing work so that our mail server will be reachable from the outside. So to do this, we're going to need to change a few things. So we're going to need to add a name server. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to try to add a name server to this. So we'll say ns1.dansgames.com, and then we'll click an IP address here, and I'll put in the IP address. And let me just double check on the IP address really quickly. And it's going to attempt to validate here, and it's not going to work, and that's going to be okay. I'll just click OK anyway. Alright, click OK. And you can see here I've set up ns1.dansgames.com to resolve to my public IP address. So click Apply, click OK. And now I have another name server record for ns1.dansgames.com. And so that's good. Oh, okay, I'm going to change my A record here to point to the public IP address. Okay, let's create a CNAME record for www.dansgames.com, and it's going to resolve to dansgames.com. Right? Click OK, and that looks good. Alright, so we have our www, we have our name server, we have an A record, right? And what we're also going to want is a mail record. Okay, let's create an MX record now. So we'll say new mail exchanger, and we're going to go in here and say mail.dansgames.com, and we'll click OK. And so now we should have an MX record. Let's see here, mail exchange record, MX record, pointing to mail.dansgames.com. Well, I'm going to also set up an A record for mail.dansgames.com that also points to our IP address. Okay. So now I have a host mail, and if I wanted to, for my NS record, I could also have that I'm going to also need an A record for my NS, so let's do that too. We'll say new A record, ns1.dansgames.com, and we're also going to put in oops, and that's incorrect. I put in the wrong IP address, I believe. Let's see here, NS1. Yep, I put in the wrong IP address, so I'll change that to 223. Okay, I'm lucky I caught that. Okay, oh, just have to click apply. Alright, cancel. Let's delete it and redo it. Delete. Alright, cannot update it. I have to redo it. New host A record, NS1. Alright, look at my IP address, make sure that's correct. Okay, and it won't let me do it. So I'll need to refresh. Okay, there it is. NS1 is correct. Okay, just had to refresh. Alright, let's test out this. Since I've got a remote connection to my server, we can test this out with the local computer. So I can, slide this over here, and we can look at my local computer here. And we'll do a clear screen. And let's try to resolve some of these and see if they resolve. So we'll say NS lookup, right? And then we're going to look up dansgames.com. Alright, and you can see that dansgames.com is resolving to the appropriate IP address. Okay, and then we'll do set type equal to MX, and we'll try to resolve dansgames.com. Alright, and you can see here that we get a mail.dansgames.com and the IP address, so that's correct. Alright, that's looking good. And then we'll do a set type equal to name server NS, and we'll resolve dansgames.com. And you can see here that our name server also resolves. So you can see here that we have our mail subdomain name resolving, our NS1, our name server is resolving, and so that's looking good. Also, if I open up a browser window, let's see here. Okay, so let's do the browser window, and we open up a new browser window, and we type dansgames.com. You can see that my web server is resolving, so we know that the name server is resolving because I can bring up the website, which is I'm hosting it on a different server on my network, but the fact that it resolves, that's a good sign. So I think we're making progress here, and we've got our DNS set up correctly. Now, all of this works because I own the domain name, or I've registered the domain name dansgames.com, and I have it pointing to my name servers. So this doesn't work unless you have a domain name registered with some type of registration agent.